Good morning, I'm the Reverend Steve Page from St. Patrick's Anglican Church, and you're listening to the Daily Devotional, sponsored by Hudson Bay Ministerial. This month I'm drawing our images of Christian faith and spirituality from the world of sports. And with the Super Bowl just around the corner, let's talk football today. Put on my football jersey thinking cap. Now, going through an entire football season without a single loss or tie, that's a very challenging task. And if a team does win every single game they play, it's called a perfect season. Now, the closest anyone has come in Canadian football would be 1948, when the Calgary Stampeders were a perfect 12-0 during the regular season and had 2 wins and a tie in the playoffs to finish the year with 14 wins, no losses, and 1 tie. Now, how, you ask, did they get a tie in the playoffs? Well, back then, the divisional finals were this 2-game home-and-home series, with the team scoring the most total points being declared the winner and advancing to the Grey Cup. Calgary tied the Saskatchewan Roughriders of all teams, 4-4 in the first game. They came to Regina and tied at 4, and then they returned home, and if the Roughriders thought they had any chance, well, the Stampeders dominated the second game and advanced to the Cup, where they continued their winning ways, beating the Ottawa Roughriders 12-7 and winning the Grey Cup that year. So 14-0-1 is as close as the CFL has come to a perfect season. And the NFL had a recent almost perfect season when the New England Patriots in 2007 won all 16 regular season games, and they won their first 2 playoff games before losing to the New York Giants in a real thriller of a Super Bowl. But there has been one perfect, no-loss, no-tie season in the NFL. The 1972 Miami Dolphins went 14-0 in the regular season and their first 2 playoff games to advance to the Super Bowl. And there they met the Washington Redskins. Now, a Miami win in that game would give them the perfect season, as well as being Super Bowl champions, of course. Now, both teams that year had powerful defenses, and they made the day miserable for the offensive players in that game. In fact, Miami only managed 12 first downs, and Washington barely topped 200 total yards. In fact, the game is the lowest scoring Super Bowl ever. But behind their 3-headed rushing machine of Larry Zonka and Jim Kick and Mercury Morris, the Miami Dolphins, they did enough to hold a 14-0 lead late in the game, and perfection was in reach. With just over 2 minutes to play, they lined up for a 42-yard field goal that this would ice the game. But a Washington player got a hand on it and blocked the kick. Now, Miami kicker Garo Yepremian, he got to the loose ball first, but instead of just falling on it and making it a dead ball, he grabbed the ball and he tried to pass to another Miami player. And unfortunately, the ball slipped comically out of his hand, almost straight up in the air. A Redskins player named Mike Bass, he caught this fumble, and he ran 49 yards into the end zone for the touchdown. So the score was now Miami 14, Washington 7. And after the kickoff, their defense, Washington's good defense, they forced Miami to punt, and Washington got the ball back at their own 36-yard line with 1:14 to play. Oh, if they could get into the end zone and score Miami's perfect season, that would be in big trouble. Well, fortunately for the Dolphins and their fans, their defense held fast, and when the clock ticked down to 0, Miami had the Super Bowl victory and the only perfect season in NFL history. You know, in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus ends a list of very challenging instructions on how we are meant to live by saying, "Be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect." Gee, no pressure. How are you doing at being perfect? Well, Jesus is giving a variation on words God spoke in Leviticus. "Be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy." And the Apostle Paul picks up on this theme too when he writes in one of his letters, "Follow God's example. Walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us." So God, Jesus, Paul, they all urge us to be careful how we live, making Christ the pattern for our living. My prayer for you is that every day brings you another step closer to perfection, that each day you will grow closer to God, that you will experience God's awesome love and grace, and will come to look more and more like our holy and perfect God in all that you say and do. For St. Patrick's Church, I'm Steve Page.